Hello everyone, this is StrawberryShorty here with Wednesday Chapter 7, If You Don't Woe Me By Now. So we kick things off with a super depressing funeral. The mayor is totally dead. And they make sure to show all of the suspects in attendance, and pretty much every other character as well. A lot of people at the mayor's funeral. We see his family. I kind of feel bad for them. Because, you know, they're clearly grieving. Like, for all Lucas's wrongdoings, it's clear he does love his father. I'm not sure why the mayor was killed, though. Like, because if we assume what they're really pointing at, and that the killer is Laurel Gates, why kill the mayor? I mean, the mayor prevented your brother from being labeled a killer, or a would-be killer, and also prevented your father from being destroyed, because if people knew your father tried to massacre a bunch of people, that probably wouldn't go over well. Even if you theorize that she doesn't know that, it would still seem kind of weird to go after the mayor. Like, did the mayor do something? I did notice when they're going over all the different people that the therapist doesn't look particularly sad. But anyway, Wednesday notices someone watching from the nearby forest and gives chase. And I knew this would be Fester because, you know, pretty much everything online is spoiling that as well. Not a fan of that voice. And I really don't like how they portrayed him here. Maybe I'm just too used to Fester from the movies, but I just could not get into this version of Fester. But anyway, he has to lay low for a bit because, you know, apparently he's a one-man man. So she hides him out in Eugene's bee club place. And he makes a rather unintentionally insensitive comment about Eugene going home in a body bag because he's friends with Wednesday, which, ugh. And Fester is able to tell her about the kind of monster that they're dealing with once she shows him Xavier's drawing. It is apparently called a Hyde, kind of like Jekyll and Hyde. And he tells her that there is a diary by a man named Faulkner hidden in the Nightshade's hideout that should mention it. And I'm honestly thinking it's probably still not going to be there. Also, Fester keeps trying to eat the bees, and Wednesday has to keep stopping him from eating the bees. A little worried about the bees. But anyway, Wednesday is back in her room. She's writing. I still want to read her novel. I wonder if they'll publish it as like a side thing connected to the show since the show's doing so well. I bet it would sell well. She still has Laurel's music box and is convinced Laurel is probably involved. Enid is still gone. I'd actually forgotten all about Enid being gone. She does drop in, though, to get something that she apparently needs. This has actually been happening more than once. So it's clear Enid misses her. Wednesday probably misses her too, but Wednesday will not apologize. I also noticed there are a lot of stuffed animals on Enid's side of the room. I have a lot of stuffed animals too, but anyway. The two get into an argument about all of their, you know, eccentricities. And one of the ones Wednesday mentions that Enid sprays a bunch of perfume, which, I can't imagine how awful that is. Like, some perfume smells nice, but I find most of it, like, super overpowering. And where's Thing? Like, we have not been seeing Thing pretty much at all whenever Wednesday is alone in a room. Maybe because they want to enforce the she's alone thing, but it still feels kind of weird that we don't really ever, like, learn where he is during these moments. But anyway. So that night, Wednesday had made plans to go to the Nightshade's hideout with Fester, but she's approaching it alone for some reason. And I thought it wouldn't open when she snapped, but she's able to get in. I continue to think she's being super reckless by doing stuff alone. Xavier is already there, and they're still angry at each other. Don't really know why. He has apparently been looking for info on the monster there as well and claims that there isn't any, and tells her that her problem is that she doesn't know who her real friends are. And like I said, I'm still not sure why she's mad at him. Like, he has more reason to be mad at her. Yeah. And she basically finally confronts him with all of her suspicions. And one of them is basically, you've been around, like, every time that the monster has appeared. Like, really everyone has been around, pretty much. The writers are setting Tyler up. Not Tyler, but put Tyler. Xavier up way too much. To the point where it would be more of a plot twist if it actually was him. And he's like, well, if I'm the monster, why haven't I killed you? And she's like, well, you like me for some reason. He's just like, what's to like? And then storms off. She kind of deserved that, though. So Fester was apparently supposed to meet her there, and he's been hiding. Him and Thing get into a fight. Thing nearly strangles him. But Wednesday calls them back to attention. and they locate the safe behind a portrait of someone named Iggy, who looks kind of interesting, but we don't get a clear look at him. So Thing cracks the safe. He's apparently a safe cracker. I hate those combination locks where you have to go, like, twist left and right on the different numbers. Those were a pain. And they find a book inside. In Wednesday's room, she reads what is apparently actually the diary, so I guess it didn't get stolen. And it says that Hydes are artists by nature, so again, really pushing Xavier here. And how a traumatic event or hypnosis can potentially bring out the person's Hyde, their monstrous self. And that kind of is a point towards the therapist, because you think hypnosis, you think therapist. And how the person who liberates the monster will have like a special bond with it and be able to control it. And Thornhill shows up and reveals how Enid has requested to permanently move in with Yoko, and Wednesday seems really surprised, even though Enid told her this is what she was going to do. I also kind of noticed, because of the whole checkered thing, like, Wednesday has been wearing more white as the story progresses. Like, I'm wondering if that's relevant. But Wednesday keeps pretending she doesn't care, insists that she will survive alone, and I'm just convinced that this is going to end with her getting into trouble and a friend saving her. But also, Fester, who had been in the room, had just vanished the minute the therapist entered. And he apparently hid under all of Enid's stuffed animals. I don't know how he crossed the room and hid under all the stuffed animals that fast, but it's impressive. Wednesday, continuing to be reckless, bursts into the headmistress's office. And I got ahead of myself. That doesn't happen till later. Xavier is the one who he's walking and he's talking on the phone. He kind of chases Wednesday off, but she spies on him. And he's talking on the phone, talking about, like, oh, I need to see you. And I'm like, is he talking to the therapist? Is he seeing the therapist too? Because if they want him to be the monster, they have to have him seeing the therapist. And Wednesday is still, of course, utterly convinced Xavier is the monster. So she and Fester ride on a cow print motorbike with a sidecar for some reason. And some catchy music plays that I think is one of the Addams Family songs. They go to the spot where Xavier swears he knows this spot, but it's just like a random spot in the woods. And sure enough, he's meeting with the therapist, and she seems kind of angry. And I wonder for a minute if she's like his mom or something. And seeing this happening makes me think all the more that the therapist is probably going to turn out to be innocent. Just because, again, they're setting her up way too hard. This is when Wednesday bursts into the headmistress's office and is like, I need to talk to you about the therapist lady, whose name I still don't remember, even though they said it multiple times this episode. And wouldn't you know it, the therapist lady is there. And again, this is Wednesday being super careless. Like, she's always hurling around accusations, and she's being very direct and doesn't really ever think about the fact that she could say the wrong thing to the wrong person. And the therapist seems quite angry, but the headmistress is like, oh no, she's been making positive steps here at the school. But the therapist keeps being sus. And Wednesday is like talking about hypnosis and expressing a desire to try it. And you can just tell she's accusing the therapist. And it's like, if the therapist is actually the killer, she totally knows you're onto her now. And this is just really, really stupid of you. But anyway, they make plans to meet for a session at some point. And we cut to the coffee shop. I'm not sure why Wednesday is at the coffee shop, considering she's not supposed to be near Tyler. Fester eats a thing off the ketchup bottle and then puts the ketchup bottle in his mouth and drinks it, which is super gross, very unhygienic. Tyler keeps looking at them, and Fester thinks that Tyler is onto him, but Wednesday's like, no, he's interested in me. I think it would have actually been funnier if Tyler came over and just like tried to like knock out Fester. He's like, no, I want the bounty. That would have been hilarious. But anyway, Wednesday ends up showing him the diary and the information about Hydes, which if it turns out to be Tyler, maybe he'll figure it out. But anyway, the sheriff comes in and catches them. Not really a surprise. But it seems like he kind of gives up on keeping them separated. He gives them a wanted poster for Fester, who has apparently been robbing banks. Wednesday insists in private to Tyler that Fester is harmless. I'm not sure that's true. He seems like he's actually completely dangerous. I mean, think of the bees. Tyler still wants to date with her for some reason and asks her to meet him at the crypt. Like, admittedly, a crypt is a Wednesday-esque date place, but why that crypt? Wednesday enters her room and sees this weird mannequin thingy with Enid's nail polish. I'm not sure what this was supposed to be or who was supposed to have put this here. Like, I thought this was like a plastic flamingo or maybe like a sign Enid had been kidnapped or something. I'm still not sure what it is. But it's just very weird. So, later that night, Wednesday sneaks off to the crypt, and she decides to trust Tyler for some reason and close her eyes so that he can lead her into the crypt. And his surprise is better than the birthday party and that it is a picnic. I knew it would be a picnic. They start playing that song, Perfect Day, which I totally remember listening to. And it is the intro to a horror movie, which is Legally Blonde. Good movie choice as a horror movie for Wednesday. Cuts to the sheriff, who finds Fester's bike, and I'm just kind of wondering where this is supposed to be going. The movie finishes back at the crypt, and Tyler makes it clear he wants to date Wednesday, and urges her not to discount his feelings, even though she does that to everyone. And, yeah, he's totally the monster. Like, I mean, it was either him or Xavier, and it wasn't Xavier, so... But this just kind of makes it all the more obvious. He tries to kiss her, but it's interrupted by the sheriff, who is oddly okay with this. Like, he doesn't get angry. He's just like, I never saw you, and then just leaves. Wednesday returns to her room to find it trashed, and she's worried for the diary first, before worrying about Thing. And poor Thing is stabbed into, like, the wall with a knife, and she just pulls the knife out and makes no effort to stop the bleeding, which is like, stop the bleeding! She takes him to Fester to get treatment. He starts zapping him with his electricity. And I'm just like, he needs stitches and like a blood transfusion. Like, ugh. And it seems like he might not make it. And she's like, it's like, Thing, if you can hear me. And I'm just like, hear you with what? He doesn't have ears. But she's like, if you die, I'll kill you. So she does care about Thing. I care about Thing too. I don't think they would kill Thing, and sure enough, Thing lives. And Wednesday is wiping tears from her eyes, and she promises to get the person who nearly killed him and make them pay. And they do a pinky promise, and it's kind of sweet. I totally kind of expect that, like, someone will see her after this and be worried, like Enid or something, but that doesn't happen. And I'm also kind of theorizing that maybe by the end of the show, she'll, like, show up dressed completely in white. I don't know. I think there'd be rioting. So we cut to her in the headmistress's office with Weems and Thornhill, and right in front of Thornhill, she admits to way too much information, including knowing about hides. Weems sends Thornhill away and confirms that she knew that the monster was one, and how Faulkner had tried to figure out if the hides were mindless killers or aware of their actions, which I do think is a curious point. I wonder if we will learn by the time this is over, and which one it will be. But he was killed by one before he could find the answer, and hides were banned from Nevermore. And she claims to tell because she's afraid that the school would be blamed and ruined if that were the case, even though Jericho relies on the school for their survival, and they don't allow hides. So, yeah, like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Plus, if it's an actual monster, I would think they're looking at Nevermore regardless, so... And it's gonna look a lot bad if they find out you've been withholding info. But anyway... Also, how can they ban hides? Like, how would they know someone was a hide? Is there, like, a screening process? Anyway. So, Weems wants Wednesday to stop hiding things, but Wednesday pretty much confronts her about only caring about the school's reputation. Weems insists she cares about the students, too. But, like, even if she does, I don't think she's doing a good job of protecting them by not revealing what she knows about the monster. Wednesday leaves. As she's walking, she's confronted by Bianca, who claims that she has info about the murder of Mayor Weems. Takes her into the Nightshade's hideout, where Lucas is there and still being way too nice. Like, I'd expect him to be more somber given what happened to his father. And again, I want him to apologize. But anyway, he reveals how the mayor was looking into Laurel, like, kind of like trying to figure out what was going on with her. And apparently, though she was presumed dead, they never found a body. And her old house was purchased by an old lady who died soon after and gave it to her caretaker, who is using an anagram that is basically of Laurel Gates. And it's like, why would you do that? Why does anyone use anagrams for their names? Like, it's just going to, screw you over in the end. And the theory is that she wants revenge for her family, but the family did themselves in, Bianca and Lucas believe that she knows who Laurel is. And I'm just like, you should tell them. I mean, you're always giving away information anyway, so might as well warn them so they don't end up in danger. We don't see if she does, though. So Wednesday continues to be stupid and goes to confront the therapist alone. And she outright calls her out and is like, I know you're Laurel, I know you're murderer, I know about the hide. She's like, I know everything. And it's like, boy, you better hope she's not the killer or you're dead. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I'm kind of wondering at this point if she's even right because she's saying all this. And she's like, why else would you come to this small town even though you're a qualified therapist? And it's like, she could just be nice and want to help people, you know? The therapist, of course, denies it, insists she has to leave because she has a patient emergency. Wednesday believes that this is Xavier, who she believes is the hide, and she says as much. And it's like, oh, you've been bringing out his hide in the cave. Therapist wants to commit Wednesday to an asylum, and I'm like, is that going to be season 2, Wednesday at an asylum? I'd kind of like to see that, not going to lie. I almost hope it happens a little bit. But yeah, at this point, I'm kind of suspecting that it's probably going to be Thornhill who's actually the killer, just because like, if she's confronting the therapist at this point, it's probably not going to be her. So after Wednesday leaves, therapist calls Weems and is like, Wednesday's totally crazy. And we hear the sound of glass breaking very, very slightly, like not like a big noise or anything. And she stops talking, and Weems is just like, hey, therapist lady, and like, everything about this is stupid. Like, I don't know about you. I'm alone and I hear glass break somewhere. I'm like, you know, hey, can you call the police? Someone just broke glass. I'm saying something, I'm hiding, I'm grabbing a weapon. I'm not slowly walking to the door and opening it, which is what she does. And it's like, oh, this woman is about to die. And sure enough, when she opens the door, it's the monster. We cut to Wednesday and Weems at the hospital, where the sheriff comes out and reveals that the therapist is dead, although we haven't seen a body. So Wednesday is like, this ends now, and just walks away, and nobody attempts to stop her, even though she's going to do something stupid. So we cut to what I think, because it's dark, I initially think is Wednesday entering Xavier's shed. And I kind of wish she'd found Xavier dead, like either he took his own life or was killed by the monster, because if the therapist truly is dead, it seems like the therapist died because of Wednesday. And if Xavier also died because of Wednesday, I feel like that would almost make the obvious villain thing work. Like, by having the twist be that Wednesday's reckless behavior got 2 innocent people killed. But anyway, turns out it's actually Xavier entering and finding Wednesday inside. She blatantly accuses him of being the monster again, of hurting Thing, stabs the knife that was left in Thing down on like a stool or something. And it's like, if he was the killer, you'd probably be dead, just like with the therapist. He reveals he's actually been seeing the therapist because his father thinks his mental health is a PR problem that needs to be taken care of. Wednesday reveals his latest painting, which is the therapist's face with claw marks, which admittedly, kind of concerning that he's painted that. I wonder if he knows the therapist is dead. Wednesday also keeps pointing out a bunch of other victims' stuff, like Eugene's inhaler, or the other guy's inhaler, Rowan's inhaler, Eugene's glasses, the therapist's pendant. Where did all this stuff even come from? Because he claims that it was planted by her, but then where would she have gotten some of it? Like, the inhaler and the glasses, maybe. Because we know she found the glasses, but where would she get the pendant? But, anyway, Sheriff bursts in and arrests Xavier while Xavier is screaming about how she framed him. And I'm just wondering what actual evidence they have besides this super obvious stuff that really seems planted. And at this point, we know it's not him. Like, there was really not much doubt, but yeah, it's not him. And did she frame him? Like, that was what I wrote down when I was watching the episode, but given the glasses and that she was the one who found the glasses at first. Or no, did she find Rowan's glasses? Oh, maybe she didn't frame him. Well, I guess we'll find out. It's unclear. But I'm also wondering why the cops let her go in, because they had to have been waiting right outside, it seems. But they let her go in and just sit there, and it's like, well, we're going to just assume he won't kill you. But anyway, she returns to her room and finds Enid is back and unpacking, apparently having decided to return to being her roommate. And she's decided to be unapologetic for the way that she is and thinks that they work. Meanwhile, she almost died. Like, I don't feel her anger was unjustified. I kind of almost think that a hug is going to happen, but it doesn't happen. They talk about the date briefly, and when Enid learns it was interrupted, she's like, oh, you know, he's working the late night shift at the coffee shop. And I'm just like, how are we going to go see him? Like, I thought we couldn't leave campus. We're so gonna get expelled. Wednesday goes and meets with him. And I'm just wondering how this is gonna end. This episode in particular. Because half of me, like, part of me expects that, like, she's just gonna get knocked out at some point. And she's like, you know, basically says that she's going to, like, trust him. Or, like, you're one of the only people I can trust. And it's just like, well, he's probably the monster, so this is gonna backfire horribly. And it looks like they're about to kiss. I'm still expecting she's gonna get knocked out, but they actually kiss. Then they kiss again. And then she has a vision. And I knew this wouldn't end well, because it's a vision of the therapist getting killed. I initially thought it was going to be the headmistress getting killed, but no, it's the therapist getting killed. And who is revealed to be the monster? Tyler! And we're all stunned. And she freaks out. Tyler's like, what's wrong? And I'm actually relieved when she just flees and doesn't tell him, like, oh my gosh, you're the monster, because I thought for a minute she would, because that's her, you know. And she comments on how the first guy she likes is like a crazy serial killer, and I mean, that seems like a good match for Wednesday to me. So, this actually ended up shorter than all the other parts. I don't feel like this episode was as interesting as a lot of the other ones, a little rushed. I do wonder where this first season will end. Next episode's the last one. I can't say that I'm as invested as I was early on, because their pacing and character writing is not great. Like in terms of, like, this whole Xavier's totally the monster thing. No one really buys that. And just, like, the whole thing with trying to make the therapist the bad guy, even though, like, there was a little bit of doubt, but I never really bought it. But anyway, what did you think? Who did you think was the monster? Who do you think is Laurel? Because it's totally not Thornhill, right? Anyway, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!